Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Control Academy. I'm your host, Marshall, and today we're playing Blue-White Enchantments. Before we get started though, I do want to take a second and let you know that I have started a new Twitter account, which I will be linking in the description and putting on screen here. So if you'd like to follow me there, I've separated my sort of work Twitter account, my sort of non-magic one, from this particular channel's account, because it was getting a little bit mixed up when I talk about science, which is my day job, and magic, which was not particularly relevant to a lot of those people. So now they're separate, but the account only has 3 followers because it's brand new. So please, if you're a Twitter user, check it out. It's at controlacad_MTG. Anyway, back to the video. So, Blue-White Enchantments. When we go to Kamigawa, we've played artifacts with Tezzeret, and now it's time to look at some of the sagas. And what's really cool about a lot of these sagas is that they have decent abilities leading up to what I consider to be like the ultimate on step 3, where they flip over and there's a creature with a relevant ability on the backside. This is Restoration of Eiganjo, which is probably one of the better ones. The first ability lets you immediately go ahead and just get a plains out of your deck. The second one lets you discard a card, and if you do, you can put a target permanent with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. If it happens to be that plains you just searched up, you've officially got white ramp. But there's a couple things that we can use this to put into play as well that are worth noting. And then when it flips, it becomes a 3/4 with Vigilance that when it attacks or blocks, you create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. And that's pretty solid, especially for 3 mana. You know, it takes some time to get there, but it's a good card. And what this is kind of cool about is that a lot of these have these pretty decent abilities that then put a slightly above rate body on the board. And so I wanted to try out a enchantment-centric build that took advantage of this. And so what ties a lot of this together, in addition to a couple sagas, so we've got the Restoration of Eiganjo, we've also got the Modern Age, which is essentially our enchantment equivalent of where we would normally play Faithful Mending. This doesn't gain you the life, but over the course of 2 turns, it does draw you the same amount of cards. It makes you discard the same amount of cards. So for the first 2 moves, you draw 1, then discard 1. This kind of works nicely to set you up to go into the Restoration of Eiganjo's second ability, which is nice. And then it flips over into a 2/3 flyer. You know, this is one of the common sagas. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. You know, not too sad about it. I think in reality, this should probably just be either Revitalize or Faithful Mending, but you'll see in a second why it's relevant that we have a cheap enchantment that we can cast. Because in addition to just being good cards that turn into creatures that we can use to pressure the board later, we've also got Hallowed Haunting, which means that every time we cast an enchantment spell, we create a white spirit cleric token with this creature's power and toughness are equal to the number of spirits you control. And so every time this generates a token, the tokens all get bigger, and that's really good. And then in the event that we get to 7 or more enchantments, creatures you control have flying and vigilance, also very good. And that applies to all of our creatures, not just the cleric tokens here. And so this becomes a nice way to really sort of just go nuts at the end of the game. So this deck's game plan is to lean on the sagas and other enchantments we have to control the board and eventually start generating tons of tokens. So we have, I already mentioned we have the card draw one. We have Restoration of Eiganjo, which is really great for both fixing mana, getting some, the Modern Age or Circle of Confinement onto the battlefield, and then becoming a really great creature. We've got, I mentioned Circle of Confinement. This is pretty solid for what it is. As a 2 mana removal spell, so it can only get things that are mana value 3 or less. So, that's fine. It's not amazing because we still have things like Essica's Chariot that it just can't remove. But as a cheap removal enchantment, it's pretty great. And if you happen to grab a vampire with it, it's got this upside that every time they cast another one with the same name, we gain some life. It is very rarely relevant, but we can see it. Unfortunately, like, the most common vampire is there's the welcoming vampire, which is something we can hit with this, although that tends to come down late enough that we probably won't be leaning on this anyway, or Edgar Charmed Groom, which does not get hit by this. So that Vampire Claws is kind of just flavor. But then we have Borrowed Time as another enchantment that can just remove anything. And so this can get bigger creatures, can get planeswalkers, enchantments, artifacts, whatever we need. And then Wedding Announcement is an MVP of the black-white X decks that are out there. I almost played one of those on the channel. Haven't gotten around to it. It's amazing there. It's amazing here because it just pumps out tokens and then flips into a +1/+1 Anthem effect, which is really great because this deck ends up generating more creatures than you'd expect, mostly in the form of tokens, but then being able to pump them all up is really great. Wedding Announcement triggers a bunch of things we want. If we happen to be able to get aggressive when it's on the announcement side, then we can draw some cards, and if not, we get more creatures. It's great. I mentioned Hallowed Haunting already, and then that's it for enchantments. To round out the control package, we've got Doomskar and Farewell as my sort of go-to split of white wraths. Farewell continuing to be an MVP pretty much everywhere it shows up because we can selectively exile all of the things that we don't want to be around. And since pretty much every permanent that we have is an enchantment or a creature, we can sort of pick and choose what we want to get rid of. And then Doomskar is pretty much necessary with mono white still in the format. Running 3 Memory Deluges. There are other cards that we could put in the spot, but Memory Deluge is just so good. Saw It Coming is in the deck because I like to play control, but I found actually there's probably good enough reason for this to just be more removal spells, because in the decks, against the decks that it matters, we're pumping out enough of these enchantments that we're not really leaving up a lot of action. But that being said, being able to just react to something with one of these Saw It Comings is still okay, and I've left it in the deck because it's been useful enough. And if we're ever in a matchup against a control deck, having access to this just Foretold it's worth having. But if you wanted to swap this out for something else, totally fine. Down here, we've got March of Swirling Mist. This is going to be something we use primarily defensively, either to protect our flipped sagas from opposing removal, potentially even in response to our own Farewell, throw on full control and save yourself some pain, but also to prevent big alpha strikes from our opponents. I've definitely had cases where we've got a bunch of creatures on board, their opponents coming up the battlefield, and just phase them all out at their end step and then untap and attack for the win. So this card's really great, even if we do have to use it aggressively. And then March of Otherworldly Light, I have this in as a one of. This card's still just really great. In terms of just sniping a artifact, creature, enchantment, there's a lot to like about this card, especially since we have so many white cards that we can exile to beef it up. So loving that one. Mana base is pretty straightforward. We've got channel lands because of course we do. There's no reason not to play them. We've got basics, lots of basics actually. One creature land because, having one of them as a option is great, but we're spending enough of our mana every turn that I didn't go nuts on them this time because we're honestly not going to activate them super, super often. And then we got duels and we're done. That's the deck. I tend to play somewhere between like 5 and 10 games off camera before I actually commit to a deck. This is one of the few where I actually got to a configuration I was happy with, like in basically one revision. So I've played 6 games with this so far, dropped one. That one was Mana Screw against an opponent that managed to also drop a Thalia. So that one was going to be very tough to win in a lot of cases. But so far, very happy with the deck. And so we're going to see if it can continue that performance. The way it was, it got me through the entirety of Plat 4 on the ranked ladder in one fell swoop. And the only other deck I've had that's done that is the Edgar Midrange deck. So I think this one's pretty strong. if you end up liking it, please remember to give it a thumbs up. And if you like what we're doing here, consider subscribing. It really means a lot to me. And I'll see you in the games. All right, our first opponent up. What's her name? Mechleg. Good luck, Mechleg. All right, this is decent. It's a little bit less blue mana than I would normally want, but we've got a Wrath, we've got early interaction, we've got 2 of the best cards in the deck. Let's keep it. Plains and go. And we're even on the play, you know? Nothing to complain about here, except that our opponent's on mono white. But hey, you know what? We have answers for that, because we kept a good hand this time. Alright, Luminarch. I'm going to play this on white, since we need double white sooner than that. Anything else? And so then the question is, do I want to leave up Eiganjo to deal with the Luminarch, or do I want to suspend a Doomskar? I'm going to take some damage. I think the answer here is to suspend or foretell Doomskar, because the likely play for them next turn is lead Spellbinder. There it is. And so I want to make sure we protect this. And so we'll take some amount of damage, but it'll be okay. Curious to see what they take here. Assume they take the Wedding Announcement. Like, that's by far the strongest card in the deck. Take the Hallowed Haunting. Okay. I mean, there's nothing incorrect about that, but I would have expected them to go differently. Alright. Tap. Play a land. Like that a lot. And let's Doomskar. Get rid of both of them. And then pass. Unfortunately, this March of Swelling, this is not going to be useful for a little while, but eventually. Eventually. Yikes. Alright, well, they're getting the Wedding Announcement eventually, huh? Go for it. Just playing everything on curve 2 turns late. Okay, well, I want to keep this for the channel, but I don't think I can. I needed to cast that Wedding Announcement. Darn it. That was a misplay. Let's just march. Let's do... Darn it. I really needed to cast this Wedding Announcement. That would have been good. If we draw a land, though, I can... There we go. Well, those are actually farewelled, so I guess I will not do the farewell yet. Or not, they were phased out. So, see, it all works out, because, like, I'm gonna get to exile an Adeline. Still got a Legion Angel, but choosing to be okay with this. Exile all creatures, and I don't have anything useful in the graveyard, so let's go ahead and get those. And it's just everything but enchantments right now. Boom. Get a blocker, which is not particularly relevant when they've got Legion Angel, but Guy could dream. Let's see. Gotta get Hallowed Haunting going, and this one lets me do exactly as little as the other one does. But hey, my dudes are now 2/2s, so there's that. Alright, we're finally done with Legion Angels. Wouldn't mind another Wrath. Yes, sirree. Yeah, that's not great. But I got a March of Swirling Mist, so that's cool. Yes, this is the play I have to make. And then next turn I can phase those guys out. Let's go ahead and just smash face with these two. And then pass the turn. Portable Hole. If I have something with mana value 2 or less, they're going to take a token. And then I will phase out both of their creatures. Yeah. But they can have my token. Fine. Haunting, this only takes creatures, unfortunately. Combat, I'll attack with one of them, just in case they have another portable hole type effect. Unfortunately, can't hit the Legion Angel with this. I'm basically just banking on finding an answer with this one last life I've got. Either bold. They're almost certainly just trying to boast. Yep, there we go. Odawara can get us out of this, right? Create a couple of dudes. Take that. And then, yeah, we got exactly enough mana to Odawara. So attack in there. I mean, it ain't pretty, but it'll get us through. Bounce. Legion Angel is back. He doesn't have any friends left, though. Ooh. Yeah, unfortunately, that is not a compelling answer, but let's see, they block 2 of them. I can deal 6 damage. That's not quite enough, but they do have to block. They do have to block, so I can at least survive. I mean, this feels pretty good. Like, I think we might have won this at 1 life. GG. That was a good one. I was not convinced we were going to win there. Until the very last turn. Alright, on to the next. Alright, next opponent up. Martian Chaos. Good luck, Martian Chaos. Don't see the Freyalise avatar very often. That's pretty cool. I like this. We've got spot removal, we've got a Wrath, we've got an amazing card, we've got card draw. This is good. I like it. And we're on the play again! Oh, I love being on the play, and I feel like it never happens, but it's been happening like crazy since I started this deck. I twitch. Alright, so this is the black-red deck. Haven't actually faced that with this particular deck, but I think we probably need to foretell this Doomskar first. Within the next couple of turns, they could have themselves set up for some pretty nasty plays. The other option was Modern Age, but and that may very well have been the right call. Just start getting more action. But like in general, we've got the spot removal. We have a big Wrath. What we need is something for like the sort of middle. Oni Cult Anvil. That is a card that is worth exiling, I think. It's a little rough. I think I can afford to wait until until they've actually got something to trigger it with, though. So I'm going to drop the wedding announcement, get that on the board. In black-red, they should not have a lot of ways to remove enchantments, so this is pretty safe. Fireblade Charger seems decent. None of these things are artifacts to trigger this with, though, so a little bit less scary. Let's play 8 planes. Don't feel the need to Wrath just yet, but I'll go ahead and drop the Modern Age. The other option is to play Memory Deluge, but I think the sooner that I can get this going, the better. That is just fine. I think, so it's tough here. What do I want to discard? I think the answer is going to be, I want to hold this on, yeah. I think I get rid of Farewell. It feels bad, but I gotta keep it. Alright, next. I'm gonna keep this on defense. If we'd had 2 to attack with, I might have done it just to draw a card, but oh well. I do need to get more land, but there's Simian Sling. So if I want to march, I'll have to exile Wedding Announcement from hand. That'll keep the Oni Cult Anvil from going. Yeah, it doesn't feel great, but you know what? I'm going to cancel. They're going to get a 1/1. That's okay, because now I can do this, pay with mana, submit 0, exile the Eye Twitch. Boom. Equipment Monkey. I love it. I'll end up with a way to get rid of Oni Cult Anvil at some point, but this ain't it. The Anvil decks are pretty strong. Let's go ahead and block here. I know they're just going to kill the other creature, but oh well. I'll get a 2/2 on next turn, and that'll be fine. Discard this. Play one of those. Let's go ahead and get ourselves some beefy blockers. Next turn, we'll get ourselves a Vector Glider, so that's pretty decent. Experimental Synthesizer. That card's so good, too. Like, I need to play this deck for a video, because it's real good. It is real good. And this is not a card that I expected from Spoiler Season to be as strong as it has turned out to be. I'm going to do this because I'm going to hopefully have the Simian Sling made a creature. Oh, okay. Interesting time. It's going to Wrath, but that means I'm going to lose my Deuterino here. And I've got Farewell. Ugh, this is a tough choice. I've got 5 mana. This is going to make another guy at the end of turn. So let's go to combat, attack. Memory Deluge. So basically the things that I want to consider here are Doomskar. That's going to get their Simian Sling, and it's going to basically shut down the Anvil engine for the time. Well, I guess it won't, because they'll get a treasure off the Shambling Ghast. But it'll at least get rid of their board, but we'll also lose our things. Whereas if I can just rip a land off of Memory Deluge, then I can exile artifacts next turn, and that's probably good enough. I'm going to lean on that and see what happens. This is one of those rare cases where, because we're generating creatures and we're actually kind of getting some... oh, that's good. Getting some momentum going. I kind of don't want to risk losing my board, which is where Doomskar kind of loses out. However, Farewell will allow us to sort of end this all in its tracks, and the fact that they played out another Anvil works to our benefit. So I'll happily block that because it's a non-artifact creature. Sure, fine. Pass damage. Go ahead, make a treasure. Do it. Do it. Yeah, that's no fun. No fun for me anyway. Alright, land or bust. Alright, well, we got a land, and then I'd like a Hallowed Haunting. I like where we're at. So we're going to... We do have something in the graveyard we want. So I'm going to just exile artifacts. Boom. And that is literally their entire board. It isn't a good game yet, but it's going to be difficult for them. Difficult for them. We'll get to draw a card off this. Feeling good. The next turn, we got double Hallowed Haunting. Okay. If they don't have something really great, well, that's pretty good considering what we just did to them. Gonna be a little disappointed, Valky. Here we go. So, first Hallowed Haunting doesn't do a whole lot, but I'll go ahead and attack in. We've got a March of Swirling Mist to protect us. And next turn, if we happen to draw a land, then we can drop both of these. But even just Hallowed Haunting into Hallowed Haunting is pretty solid. And I mean, we've got them pretty close to dead on board if they don't have something real good here. Alright, each other creature gets -X until end of turn. You lose X life. Okay. Yeah, that's -2. Alright. Sure. X target creature cards with total menu value X or less to the ground. Alright, so they can get 2 X2s or less from the graveyard. Let's see. Gain haste. Alright. Alright, they're going to go to attackers. They have 2 mana up. So that's not ideal. But... Alright, so they're dealing 3 with this. That is fine. Oni Cult. So they're dealing 3. I need to think this through, actually, because like they're dealing 3, and they can drain 1. That's 4. Oh, I'm at 12 life. I'm fine. What am I doing here? I looked at their 5, and for some reason I thought I was at 5, but we're doing fine. I get a 1/1 dude. Okay. I mean, it'd be better if they didn't, but so I was gonna do this turn, but it actually makes a lot more sense to just do it my turn. Do this X4. I don't even need to do X4, but do it like that just for funsies. Phase them all out, and then swing in for lethal. Boom. Misplay narrowly avoided. I think we would have won either way, but that was the correct play. All right, next opponent up is Magic Science. I like that username. Good luck, Magic Science. We're on the play. Gotta love it. We got 2 Wraths, a removal spell, card draw. It doesn't have everything we'd want, but it's got a heck of a lot, so I'm going to give it a go. Keep 7. And we're even on the play again, you know? What's not to like? Alright, play this on blue. Now let's get some card draw action going against another blue-white player. I'll take a Hallowed Haunting. Let's get rid of one of these. Ooh, Jeskai. Is this the Hinata deck? Interesting. Draw a card, then discard. These are all so good. I'm going to discard Farewell. I'm the furthest from playing that. Probably going to regret that at some point, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Let's Restoration of Eiganjo. I hope they don't have Negate or Spell Pierce. Please don't have Negate or Spell Pierce. There we go. You've got something, because it hung up pretty bad, but yes, sirree. Fish. Fish. We've all got fish. I love these fish pets, by the way. Alright. Opponent in no hurry to play any white mana. I'll discard this so that I can get it back. Just seems decent. I do have to be distinctly worried about Counterspell now. As they can play, just saw it coming on its own. So, I got double blue, we will have double white. Let's play white. So my options here are to Hallowed Haunting and cross my fingers. Because, like, there is a decent chance that they've got a counterspell. They didn't foretell the Jeskai Hinata decks. I don't think they normally run it. Gonna feel silly if they counter it, but given how they've been playing, I don't think we're in any hurry to foretell a Doomskar. So let's try for Hallowed Haunting and hope for the best. Got to make them have it. Don't have it. Let it resolve, please. Please. Hey, that's not a counterspell. Doesn't mean that we're gonna get to do as much with it as I'd like, but it's not a counterspell. Alright. Galvanic Iteration. Interesting. Okay. I mean, the trick is we don't have a ton to go with this Hallowed Haunting, but we'll draw some. I'm sure we will. They've got access to 4 mana right now. They could Hinata. Would love it if they'd Hinata. That's not Hinata, but Valor's Stance is good to know about. Modern Age is pretty solid. Alright. Let's go ahead and draw and discard. Make Deuterino. Ooh, I like it. I like it a lot. So the question is, discard Eiganjo or Doomskar. It feels rough, but I think I discard Eiganjo because I can play everything else, and while it's going to feel silly when I can't get to 6 mana and need to be, this is going to feel pretty nice. There we go. Come on. We'll get to We won't get to draw because everything else got summoning sickness, but we'll get a dude, and if they don't wrath the board, then we'll get to draw cards next turn. Expressive iteration, alright. Alright, seems good so far. I've got 5 mana up. Every time I see Galvanic Iteration, I just get flashbacks to Alrund's Epiphany. Not literally, but figuratively, of course. And it's rough. Yeah, it's rough. Okay. Double Fading Hope is pretty decent on this board. Can't argue with that. Especially when they get to scry twice. Well, that's good. Get rid of that. And now I want to make sure our opponent is keenly aware that these vampires are indeed getting married. No ifs, ands, or buts. What you got, opponent? I fully intend to draw a card off these wedding announcements. Oh, it's going to be so good. Let's go ahead and foretell this. Why not? Odawara solid. Circle of Confinement. I don't actually know what to expect our opponent to play, but it's not going to work on... this won't get a Hinata if that's what's in their deck, but I'm beginning to... You know, honestly, they're probably building Total Hullbreaker Horror, which is probably what they're about to play. Ooh, they do have an extra turn card. Okay. This one is less good than Alrund's Epiphany, that's for sure. But I see they're trying to accomplish the same thing, so good of them. Show of confidence. Interesting. What creatures are they playing? I haven't seen a single one from them yet. Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't going to power it up. Although it just occurred to me that these Vector Gliders do pump up the Hallowed Haunting tokens, which is purely coincidence. Let's get this on blue. Got 6 mana just in case. Let's attack again. And oh, and the Architect makes spirits. It's almost like I planned it this way. We don't get to draw cards off of Wedding Announcement because they don't let us. They don't live till next turn. It's even better. All right, good game. Good game. All right, next opponent up is Jerf. Good luck, Jerf. This is not the best hand I've had, but it's got some good cards in it. It's got mana. We're on the draw, which is not ideal, but maybe our opponent's playing just 60 lands that don't animate themselves. Oh, there's a land that animates itself, so that ain't gonna come true. This is actually an alright pull here, because if they play a creature, we can remove it. If they don't, we can draw a card. There's a creature. Go and remove it. That's a good timing. Go ahead and slurp that up. If their move here is just animate the Lair of the Hydra, then that's actually not bad for me. That's the best they got going on right now. Play this. Question is, do I do Restoration or Wedding Announcement? I think ultimately I want to play both after that. Let's get the Wedding Announcement going so that way we can block things, and if they want to, I don't know, if they want to throw creatures, oh, come on, Jerf. It's just a 1/1. Okay. Welcome back to another closing for the deck here. This one was fun. I know I say that a lot, but this one was a bit of a different taste. It's really strong. I really enjoyed it. As far as a control deck goes, it really relies a lot more on board control as opposed to reactive control. And so, that worked out reasonably well because there's a lot of decks in the meta that are trying to flood the board with all sorts of permanents. And so therefore, things like Circle of Confinement, Borrowed Time, Doomskar, Farewell, they do a lot of work. As a result of that, the Saw It Comings, because this deck is trying to spend a lot of its mana at sorcery speed, the Saw It Comings are just a lot less great than normal. And so actually, after playing around for a little bit, I actually kind of want to swap those out for copies of the Wandering Emperor. So I think if I were to go back and do this, I would probably have the deck look a little more like this. That's because, this is just generally a strong card. It continues to make more tokens. It's more, it's a flash threat that is also good at sorcery speed. Whereas it was just very rare that we were actually taking the time to stop and counter things. So I think that this is probably the best configuration of the deck, but leave the counter spell in if that's your preference. What I will say about the inclusion of the cards, I am not sad about any of them. The deck works really, really well. It doesn't really care about getting hit by opposing Doomskars because it can rebuild the board so quickly. It's opposing Farewells that really mess it up. Because, at this point, the whole point of Hallowed Haunting especially is to get enchantment after enchantment after enchantment after enchantment. If they're able to wipe all your creatures and all your enchantments all at once, then that's real hard to come back from. And if they get rid of your every bit of engine piece that you've got going out once, and you just don't have anything in hand to rebuild with, it's a house. So this is the card that you've got to really worry about, and that's probably the only reason I could justify leaving in a counterspell. But even then, just every time, it was better trying to kill the opponent faster than trying to sit on Farewell or sitting on a counter for Farewell. Because most of the time, this can snowball really quickly. One of the things that I didn't even appreciate when I first made it is that the Architect of Restoration makes spirits. The Modern Spirit Age flips into a spirit. And then all of the things that come off the Hallowed Haunting care about how many spirits you have. And so if you happen to get any combination of these, it goes insane. And you get these tokens that are just huge. And so the Restoration of Eiganjo basically becomes this deck's equivalent of Adeline, the Resplendent Cathar on the backside. It's, it's really, really strong. Otherwise, Circle of Confinement did exactly what we wanted to. It was just good enough as a 2-mana enchantment. Borrowed Time is about as good as we're going to get for an effect that makes this, but it also was really great. Can't complain about that. Restoration of Eiganjo overperforms, even if it's just being able to drop an extra land onto the battlefield in a given turn, that is pretty great. And then the 3/4 vigilance that makes spirits on the backside is just great. Away Announcement is always good. Hallowed Haunting was just when you could get it off and then play the other enchantments after it. It was just so strong. It's what led to some of those snowball board states that just overwhelms the opponent. Once this deck kind of gets some gas going, if the opponent doesn't fare well, it just keeps going. And it, like I said, it doesn't really care about Doomskar for the most part, because Hallowed Haunting can put more spirits back onto the battlefield. Wedding Announcement generates turn after turn after turn. These things flip into more and can create more creatures as well. So that was never an issue. Otherwise, I think it's great. I am curious to see if any of the Enchantments Matters cards from green or green-white would be useful here, but the mana in this is solid enough that I kind of don't want to mess with a good thing, if I'm being completely honest. But go ahead and give it a try. Like I said, the cards that are questionable, or the cards that are going to be most taxing on your or wild cards in this deck are cards that are going to be useful in other decks anyway. Like this goes into so many different things. I suspect that this is going to become much more of a staple as we go forward. Both of these are pretty solid if you're going to play any amount of control. The Wraths are, I literally play 4 and 2 of these in pretty much every white deck I play. The only one you'll really want to think about is Hallowed Haunting, because it's a little bit more niche. There are other decks that play it, but this is the one where for your wild cards, you'll probably get the less bang for your buck. But you know, this, if you've got the 4 wild cards to spare, this deck is a blast. I mentioned that I played 6 and 1, 6 wins, 1 loss off stream. For this one, I believe it was 4 and 1. I'll double check that. And so therefore, you know, we did, you know, about 10 and 2, which is a pretty good rate on this. I have already managed to get further up in the ladder because of this deck, and I'm excited to see where we go from it. The question will be whether it needs to be tweaked to better defend itself against Farewell, and I think that's going to end up being a meta call. And I think that the Wandering Emperor will kind of help against that, because it's insulates against the one thing that Farewell can't hit, which is Planeswalkers. So I think that this change, having 3 Wandering Emperors instead of the 3 Saw It Comings, is going to be good. The only downside here is that it fights for Hallowed Haunting for the 4-drop slot, but you know, this deck is capable of sitting back and being patient. It is less controlling than some of the decks we play on the channel, but it's definitely still good at keeping the board under control. I'd say give it a shot. You know, it's a solid blue-white enchantment deck. Anyway, if you like the deck, please give it a like. If you like what we're doing here on the channel, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks.
Searching for greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless, a sea of the aimless. I don't want to be one of the nameless.